Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope you're good. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Shard. I create content for the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and Master Duel, and we're doing a deck profile for Dinomorphia, one of the I want to say most fun and explosive decks out there right now. Super unique and very budget friendly, and I think that's why I want to showcase this deck, just to show you guys what the deck can do, what's the potential, and in Power of the Elements, how can we deal with stuff. And yeah, let's go. So starting off, of course, we have the 3 Dinomorphia Theresia. This card is, you have to play it. It's what sets your Dinomorphia traps and really just the star of the deck. We run other spell cards just to get to this card. It's just so important. And of course, to some of the fusions, you need the Dinomorphia names. I'm only running 2 Diplos now. I know a lot of builds run 3 and I don't disagree. However, it's really bad to draw, to be quite honest with you. And sending it as a fusion material is ideally how you want to be using this card. Summoning it is not the end of the world, because it does combo off with Kentragina quite well. You'll notice we're running a really small monster lineup. Mona Chill, which is a negate if a monster is special summoned, and then if that monster leaves the field, you burn them. It's not bad, does come up in time, and it's really funny. And then running 2 Ash Blossom. So just to quickly summarize, why are we running these hand traps? Well, Ghost, Psychic, and Punisher is 11-star synchro. 3+8, Rexterm plus any of the Ash Ghost Sisters makes Psychic, and then in our deck, he can go to like 10k attack and win the game. So, that's why we run these. And of course, it's a very tiny hand trap engine, which we don't mind running. We really need to protect our Rexterm. We really need to protect our Kentragina and Theresia. So that's why Miscellaneous is there. It's a very a niche situation where you will banish it to special another Dinomorphia, and that might come up, but you really just use it for the protection. And I've been testing it, and it's really good. So there's Miscellaneousaurus. And guys, that's the monster lineup. Of course, we'll go straight into the traps now and see what's happening over there. This insane ability to fuse from the deck. And yeah, that's what Dinomorphia Domain does. It lets us fuse during each player's main phase, brings out the Kentragina, does not bring out the Rexterm. Keep that in mind. The reason why is Domain only summons by sending materials from the deck. Rexterm needs at least 1 fusion monster. So keep that in mind. However, you can do the Domain, summon Kentragina, Kentragina, banish Domain as cost for its effect, copy Domain's effect, use the Kentragina, send another monster from the deck, and there's your Rexterm. So that's one way to get into it with this card, and that is why we definitely play it. Essentially, we want 6 starters. These 6 plus Trap Trick become your stars of the deck, what gets your deck going. And Frenzy is better than Domain, to be quite honest with you, because it goes straight into Rexterm. Now, keep in mind, it's not always the best idea to do that, because we want low life points so that Rexterm really gets its floodgate effect going. But yeah, Frenzy is really good. It only works in the opponent's main phase. Keep that in mind. And running the Dinomorphia Sonic, Dinomorphia Alert. These are your utility cards of the Dinomorphia strategy. Sonic negates spells and traps. Counter trap, really good. Alert and Brute. Alert is like a monster born for the Dinomorphia strategy. And Brute is a popper for both sides of the field. You can pop 1 card. And that's good because it procs our Dinomorphia effects to, recursion and bring back other Dinomorphias from the grave. So as mentioned, Trap Trick really just tutors out any normal trap in the deck, including the Dinomorphia fusion traps. So that's why I run it. It's really powerful. Ferret Flame. So I took out Torrential Tribute. I think Ferret Flame is better. It's more explosive. If it resolves, you win the game because its effect is ridiculous. So yeah, that's why I run it. And against Tearelements, if they go grave by card effect, aka Torrential Tribute, they're going to proc their fusion summons, and we don't like that. So that's why another reason why I took it out as well. Running Rivalry of the Warlord, 2 Gozen. I think Rivalry is really powerful, and it may be the better floodgate going forward. However, Gozen shuts down the Spright matchup. They don't use just Dark. They use Fire attribute, Water attribute, and it shuts them down. Tearelement, they use Dark and Water, shuts them down. So I think Gozen is a very effective strategy, and we only really summon Dark Dinosaurs, and it's quite a weird combination when you think of it. Some considerations are skill drain in the main deck. I think it's really good, and I wouldn't say no to it. These floodgates, keep in mind, can work as board removal, because when you flip it, they are going to get rid of monsters they control. So that's always a fun time. Next, 3 Imperm. This card makes sense in a deck like Dinomorphia where you banish traps. Banishing Imperm to bring back a Dinomorphia is really good. And the fact it's a hand trap that you want to use means you're always going to have it in the grave. So I like Imperm in this deck. To round off the traps, we got Solemn Strike. If you watch my previous profile, you've noticed I'm not running Solemn Judgment. I don't know how I feel about that yet. I'm siding it. By the way, I really like Gravedigger's Trap Hole. I think it's a card that, coupled with Solemn Strike, really protects our fusion traps. And that's really the key of the deck anyway, isn't it? So, keep that in mind. I think Gravedigger Trap Hole has a place in the deck list as well. But for now, I'm just running Solemn Strike. I think it's more consistent, and it hits a lot more stuff, and it combos with our floodgates to remove the opponent's board if they try to negate the floodgates. But yeah, that's the deck list. It's a bit more, I want to say, it's a different approach to how it used to be. There's no Lord of the Heavenly Prison. I think it's a bit slow. And yeah, I think this build is much more aggressive. It is budget friendly too, which I really, really like. You know, floodgates are not that expensive right now, and some of them are getting reprinted. So yeah, that's the traps, and we'll move straight onto the spells. Okay, so for the spells, one thing I should know, I know what you're looking at. It's Pot of Prosperity, stupid expensive card. What I'm going to say is, I think if you have this card, absolutely run it. Extravagance is kind of a gamble because you're banishing at random cards from your extra deck. If you banish your Dinomorphia Fusions, you're going to have a really rough time. That said, it did work, and it worked for me for a long time. But now that I own Prosperities, this is what I'm running, and I think this is what you should be running. The fact you can choose what you can banish and then look through the top of your deck is really useful, really important. Pot of Duality is good. You know, we don't really special summon on our turn, and we don't really care about the drawbacks of Duality that much. So having that card means we can dig through our deck and really just pick out the piece we're missing. What I'm running on top of this is the one Fossil Dig. So I think this card is really clutch. Call by the Grave, of course, we want to protect our fusion traps. And this is the surprise card. Apologies for the proxy card there. I'm letting a friend borrow one of my super polys. And yeah, this card alone pretty much, you know, is the reason why I'm enjoying this deck. Again, it's so aggressive thanks to this card. Garura, the best, the baddest fusion right now in the game. You know, absolutely terrorizing the TCG competition. And yeah, Garura lets us take down any Spright board, any Tearelement board, any board in the game, Flunder boards. And guys, that wraps up the main deck. There wasn't a lot to go through. Of course, I've done a deck profile before. If you want to watch more of a breakdown and maybe some other options I explored, please check out that video. Let me know what you think. It is a different style of deck, and you know, it's probably for a different format, but I think it's still relevant. I think I might make some changes after I playtest a bit more, but this seems to work for me, and I love the Super Poly. It's just really, really aggressive, and it fits the style of our deck. And our extra deck is not that demanding. So yeah, this is like the perfect card for this kind of deck. Oh, and we have a lot of trouble going second. So once again, this card is sick. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. We're talking about the extra deck now, and we're going to start with 2 Rexterm. Not 3, 2 Rexterm. So because we're running Prosperity, we're not that desperate to really just protect our Rexterms when you do Extravagance. Manage to sit on 1 Rexterm that can just win you the game outright. So that's why we're running on 2. I think because the deck is more aggressive and Rexterm really is a closer of all things, I don't think you need the 3rd one. That said, I wouldn't say no to it. You know, there is grindy games where you just need that 3rd one. However, we are running 3 Kentrigina, but she provides everything for the deck itself. You know, there's a lot of powerful normal traps, and we need to copy their effects. And then running 2 Stuff Bergia. So, you know, running 3 means you can end up summoning that 3rd one, which does come in, I'll be honest. We're focusing on closing the game early. We don't want to grind it out too much. And that's why I'm running 2 Garura. You know, super pulling 1 is a huge swing for you because you're taking care of 1 to 2 boss monsters or 1 to 2 starters. But then running the second one means, of course, your super polys aren't dead. We're running 3. It's not once per turn. There are boards where you can absolutely just summon 2 of them. You know, the Spright board ends with the Spright Negators plus Elf are Fire Thunders, Garura. Totally awesome. And Duke Frog are Water Frogs, so Water Aqua, Garura. So there you go. That's the way we deal with these boards. And moving on, we're running Evoza, Doka, and Lagia. These cards are great. Lagia is like a Solemn Judgment. Doka is like a Solemn Strike, but it's not once per turn, and that catches people off guard by a lot. Of the 2, I think Doka comes up way more often. Next card is Baguska. So I'm going to combo Baguska with Zeus, actually, because I think these go hand in hand. Of course, Baguska makes everything go to defense. If it's in defense, its effects are negated. That doesn't affect Link monsters, unfortunately, but, you know, it's enough for us to really just ensure that we can go into the Zeus and then clear the board. So that's nice. And then the next Exceed card. This card counters Tearelement big time, like absolutely big time. So that's why we run it. And the last card to round off the extra deck collection is Sakigan Punisher. At the start of the battle phase, if your life points are lower than your opponent's, gain attack equal to the life points. Remember, we're Dinomorphia. So if we're playing well, if we're playing optimal, we're probably on 1,000 life points, probably less than that. So this card is gaining at least 7,000 attack. It means if it does 1 attack, you're going to win the game. So I think Sakigan is a hilarious card. And if you remember, the reason why we run these very small Ghost Sister package of, you know, the 3-star tuner and the Rexterm make this card. And that's the only way to make it. But that's enough because, again, we want to keep the Rexterm on board and then magically go into this card and win the game. So, again, this fits the style of the deck too. It's super, super aggressive. Doesn't wait for the opponent. It just, you know, we want to make the plays. We want to be proactive. So, yeah, this is the list. So, of course, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Every deck has its own weaknesses and strengths. As a trap deck, inherently, we have a good time going first, but we have a lot of trouble going second. You'll notice here we are running some absolutely brutal, scary boss monsters, big bad and dangerous guy kind of monsters. Here we got Pankratops. Of course, he's limited for a reason. If Pankratops, you can special summon it if your opponent controls more monsters than you. If you're going second, of course they're gonna have more monsters than you. Contribute yourself as cost to pop a card on the field, and that can get rid of a lot of pesky cards right now in the game. It can run over a lot of Sprite cards as well. Keep that in mind, and that's kind of the theme of why I'm running these cards. They do really well against Sprite. Let's talk about Alpha really quickly. This card is great if your opponent has more attack points on the field than you, especially. It's not once per turn effect, especially as well, so you can actually use its second effect, which is a hard once per turn, to essentially bounce monsters they control back to the hand equal to how many beasts you have. And if our scary going second monsters were able to clear the board enough, Evenly is going to resolve without any issues, and that's all we want as a trap deck that struggles a lot going second. I am conscious of the fact these Evenlies are quite pricey, so you can replace these with anything like a Kaiju, like Sphere Mode, like Dark Ruler no more, maybe, or just, classic board wipes. Raigeki at 3, it's not limited anymore, and I think that'll actually do you just as good as these cards here. Moving on, so I only own the one Soul Drain, but I'm testing it. This card is the anti-Tearelement card, stopping your opponent from activating effects in the graveyard, and that pretty much is it, really. Solemn Judgment, so I did mention it, I'm not running in the main, I'm running in the side. I don't like the fact that it halves our life points. I think that's really hurting our survivability, and it kind of puts us on the defensive as well. After siding, our opponent is going to flood their deck with back row hate and things like that, so that's why the Judgment is there. And of course it is the counter to Red Reboot too, which you can never discount. Halving life points is good for Dinomorphias, and that's what this card does. Taking Judgment out does impact that. However, I think we can rely on the Super Poly and the Dinomorphia stuff enough to still win us the game. Oh, and the floodgates too. And then to round off the deck, we're running 3 anti-spell. Okay guys, so that pretty much wraps up the deck profile. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, of course, as always, make sure to drop a like. Helps the channel get noticed, helps it get out there, share it to more people. And if you want to see a gameplay related video where I take this deck online and really just test it to the full limits, let me know. And if you find anything interesting about the ratios or the deck, or maybe you've played Dinomorphia and you play in a different way, I'd love to know what you're doing with the deck. What matchups are you finding a struggle with? How's your side deck going? I'm really curious. And yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.